You're listening to episode number 83 of the Transform Your Life from the Inside Out podcast. In this episode, I talk about the power and vibration of words, and this episode is titled, You Speak Your Life into Existence. Keep listening. Hi, I'm Jim Fortin, and you're about to start transforming your life from the inside out with this podcast. I'm widely considered the leader in subconscious transformation, and I've coached super achievers all around the world for over 25 years. Here, you're going to find no rah-rah motivation and no hype, because this podcast is a combination of brain science, transformational psychology, and ancient wisdom all rolled into one to take your life to levels you've never thought possible. If you're wanting a lot more in life, to feel better, to heal, to have peace of mind, to feel powerful and alive, and to bring more abundance and prosperity into your life, then this podcast is for you, because you're going to start learning how to master your mind and evolve your consciousness. And when you do that, anything you want then becomes possible for you. I'm glad you're here. When you hear you speak your life into existence, what does that mean to you? What are you really hearing when you think about that phrase? And I mean, you really contemplate that phrase, you speak your life into existence. In the Bible, there is a phrase, and I'm not endorsing any religion, any, religious text or any of that. And I've never read the Bible. And I came upon this phrase a long time ago when one of my students said, oh, that's John 1:1. But the biblical phrase in John 1:1 is, in the beginning, there was the Word. So consider that for a moment. In the beginning, there was the Word. And then if you look at your own life, every bit of it, wherever you are in life, there was a beginning to it. And in that beginning, there was a Word. And I think I'd mentioned in the last podcast about Khalil Gibran. And Khalil Gibran said that something along the lines of, our words are simply drippings from the mind. But when you really look at it, anything and everything in your life starts with the words about your self-talk, about whatever it is that you think you can do or you cannot do. My NLP coach, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, her name is Peggy Dean. She really doesn't, that I know of, teach NLP anymore, but she learned from Bandler and Grinder, the co-developers of NLP, and was very big in the field for a lot of years. And she was my mentor for a lot of years and my friend. And many years ago, when I first started, working with her, and she was my mentor teaching me, NLP, one day we were just sitting in the office and she said, just very, very casually, she said, you speak your life into existence. And that's always stuck with me, is that wherever I am in life, it's because I've spoken my way there. So today, this podcast is being published on January the 1st, 2019. And what I want you to look at is that you spoke all of 2019 into existence. As you look back over the past year, everything that you created or things that you did not create were things that you spoke into existence. And even if you don't have it, well, that's the non-existence of it, but you also spoke that in the creation. So a question that I have for you right now today is, what are you going to speak into existence in 2020? I don't know how new you are to the podcast, and I'm so grateful that we have so many people downloading, and I constantly get messages that people are being benefited and they're being helped by the content in this podcast. I don't know how long you've been listening, but this is what I tell people. Please go back to the very beginning if you're new and start from podcast number 1, episode number 1. And I know also that you will find that even after you listen to episodes maybe 2 or 3 times, that, you might listen to it later and you're like, oh, I missed this and I missed that. So what I want to share is go back to the very beginning and start there. But if you've been with me for any amount of time, you know that I talk about my brother-in-law quite a bit, a shaman, who has mentored me for a lot of years. And he said something, I know I've mentioned it here in the podcast, but I want to reiterate it again. He said to me that the phrase is this: The world is this way or that way because I tell myself the world is this way or that way. Wow. I mean, to me, when you can really come to know that and you can get your mind around it, my world is exactly the way that I say my world is. My world is easy. My world is hard. My world is about abundance and prosperity. My world is about struggle and pain. My world is about health and feeling great. My world is about always being sick and ill. We speak every bit of this into existence. So look at your own life. Look at your money right now, or lack thereof. And what I want you to notice is whatever you're telling yourself about money, you have corresponding words about money. If you look at your bank account and your money, piles up in your bank account, look at your corresponding words. They pretty much correspond. If you look at your bank account and there's no money, guess what? Corresponding words. You look at your health, you look at your relationships. A friend of mine, and I know I mentioned this somewhere in one of the episodes, a friend of mine in New York City from many years ago. When I lived in New York, I moved out of New York City back to Texas in, I believe, 2001. And he was always saying, which blew my mind, because Manhattan, I think, I don't know, number one, there's 8 million people in Manhattan, I believe, or something like that. And there's a large single population in Manhattan. And he was always saying there are no good women. All the good women are taken. And my thinking was, I mean, you're in the largest city, the largest populated city in the US. Oh my gosh. If you can't find a girlfriend here, you're not going to find a girlfriend anywhere. And I had to go back to New York in 2018 to speak at an event. And I met up with him physically, obviously, to grab some lunch and to talk and really, really just sit down and connect and catch up. And he's still single. Now, he's been in and out of relationships, but he said something to me, and I almost fell out of my chair when he said this. He said, you know what, Jim, there just aren't any good women in New York City, or something along those lines. All the good women are taken. And I'm like, I didn't tell him, but I'm like, those are the same things you were saying 20 years ago. And the reason you're single is because you're speaking that into existence with your words. So our words are powerful in terms of, programming the subconscious mind, but in terms of frequency and vibration, which I'll talk about a little bit later in this episode. And I could dive deep into this episode, and we only have so much time, and I keep the episodes, if I can, under 30 minutes to make them consumable and manageable. But I definitely think at some point in the future, I will create another episode on the power and the vibration and the frequency of your words. Words create for you or words destroy for you. There's a couple of places that I want to go in this episode, and let's talk about self-talk first. Now, the reality is I don't know. I mean, I've read different things over the years about our level of self-talk and how much we talk to ourselves, but I've never seen any conclusive proof on like, oh, we have 4,000 thoughts per day, or we talk, this many, we talk to ourselves about this many things a day. But I don't have to tell you. Look at your life. You go through your entire day talking to yourself. Literally, you go through your entire day talking about, it's just so funny. I got to pick up laundry. I've got to, or drop off laundry or dry cleaning and pick up the kids and go to soccer. And I have no money and I have money and this is good. And my knee hurts and I fell down in the kitchen and I can't believe my mom did that at New Year. All these things. We just talk and blabber and blabber and blabber all day long. What I want to share with you, though, is a great deal of your talk. Research has demonstrated this to some degree, that a great deal of your talk is actually counterproductive and negative. And if you look at your own life, like look at before you started this podcast, if you were to survey if you could just rewind a video and watch yourself talk for the past hour prior to listening to this episode, what were you talking to yourself about, and how many negative statements did you make about yourself? So, and this episode's not entirely about self-talk, because again, it's about that we speak our life into existence, because I want to talk about self-talk, which we're talking about, but I also want to talk about vibration in just a moment. All right. I've read a lot of books over the years. I know that I've read over 5,000 books over the years, and I don't read so much anymore because you'll find, for the most part, is most books are just a rehash of another book of another book of another book of a rehash of another book of another book, etc. But there is one really good book that I read many years ago. It's a classic, and the title of the book is What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. And the author is Dr. Shad, S-H-A-D, Helmstetter. I believe it's Helmstetter. And again, the title is What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. Because look at how you use your self-talk to speak your life into existence. For many years, up until my 30s, I struggled with money, even though I, this, I, these aren't scripted, okay? So I just want you to know that. But even though people have said over the years, Jim, you're very good at what you do, you're very gifted, you, I have a lot of skills. But see, that doesn't matter for any of us because it's not the skills, it's the self-image that's going to create for us. And even though I had all the skills, my self-image was, well, we grew up poor and money's hard to come by and I've got to struggle for money. I've got to work hard and I've got to grind it out and all this crap that people are taught that I grew up with as well. And my words for the first 30 years of my life, maybe even the first 35 years of my life, were constant self-talk about how hard it is to actually, the word that I used to use is make money. This day and age, I say that we attract money. Segue here very quickly. I wanted to actually do an encore video for July the 1st. And I'm not going to do it. And the reason why is because I have an entire video team and they're also posting Facebook ads and everything else that drive people to this particular episode. And I don't want to knock everybody's rhythm off and everything else. But if I did an encore episode today, January the 1st, 2020, I would say go back and listen to episode number 9 on how people are using the law of attraction to repel money from them. As I mentioned before, I think 78% is what I read in the Wall Street Journal. 78% of people in the United States struggle with money and live paycheck to paycheck. Please, whatever you do, if you're not prosperous in the ways that you want to be financially, then go to episode number 9 and listen to it and listen to it. And it's also, I think, the longest episode that I created. But absorb what I share with you in episode number 9. Because if you don't have money in your life, buy the law of attraction and buy your words and buy your vibration and buy your frequency. The law of attraction is actually repelling because see, the law of attraction always works. And if your thoughts and your words are of lack, that's what you are attracting. Okay, very quickly here, self-talk. I talked about Dr. Shad Helmstetter and we talk to ourselves all day long. Well, where does self-talk come from? Self-talk comes from our identity. And then that matriculates into our beliefs. And then our beliefs become our stories. And then our stories become our behavior. So, and speaking of stories also, I've created several episodes, actually the interview episodes back several months ago. I think it was maybe in July and August and maybe early September. I interviewed 6 of my students and the common theme, and they're all actually have had significant transformations in their life, and every one of them will tell you in their interviews, one of the biggest things they did is they changed their stories. And again, back to this episode, you speak your life into existence. You speak your life into existence with your stories. And we learn these stories very early on, which is our identity, then our beliefs. Then we talk about our stories and talk about our stories and talk about our stories all day long. And then whatever stories we tell ourselves becomes our behavior. And then that becomes our outcome. And then I go back to, it might be a little clearer now. And then I go back to the world is this way or that way because I tell myself the world is this way or that way. Being very transparent here, one of my transformational coaches many years ago, I back in 2012 or so, my partner and I were looking to get out of Dallas. And there were several places, or a few places that we looked at that really were appealing to us. One was Asheville, North Carolina, a beautiful, beautiful place if you've never been there. It's absolutely gorgeous in the Blue Ridge Mountains. The other was Boulder, Colorado, and really Sedona, Arizona, which we've already bought a house there and we're moving that direction. Sedona really wasn't on our radar, and as it turns out, it's the perfect place for us. But in Boulder, I was talking to my transformational coach back in 2012. His name is Barry. And I was saying there's a plot of property that I want to buy in Boulder, and it actually overlooks. It's in the east part of town, and it overlooks all of Boulder, and you can even see the Rocky Mountains and etc. from that far east of town. And the property I think was 1.2 million. I didn't want to take a mortgage on it. I wanted to just pay cash for it. And my coach stopped me right there, and he said to me, and he started laughing in a very positive way, a supportive way. He's like, "Well, if you want to pay cash for it and you don't have the cash right now, change your story." And as I look back now, and I mean this very humbly, like today, if I wanted that same property, which I think was 1.2 million back then, I could write a check for it today. Literally, I could just pull out my checkbook and write a check for it. And when I look at that in my own life, when I didn't have 1.2 million in cash back in 2012, guess what? I spoke that into existence. And now, 2019, when I could literally whip out my checkbook and write a check to buy the entire property, pay cash for it, my stories, my words are different. So because my stories and words were one thing in 2012, that created an outcome. Because my stories and words were different, are different in 2019, a completely different outcome in my life. So back to the title, you speak your life into existence. More than anything here, I focus on a couple of areas. Number one is money, because so many people are struggling with it. Secondly, is health and wellness. 80% of the U.S. population, and by the way, there are obviously people all over the world listening to this podcast, but in the U.S., 80% of the population is overweight. Literally, the U.S. literally is a very sick country when it comes to the health of the population. So I talk about money a lot, and I talk about health a lot. And look at your words. Look at your words when it comes to your health. I learned from a Hawaiian kuna. Many years ago. I learned from a shaman that we must speak to our bodies, and we actually must communicate with our bodies and tell our bodies what we want it to do, which most of us, I mean, that might even be alien to a lot of you. There's an episode here, and I don't know the number. It's Katie. She's one of my students, and she's now one of my coaches. But in that episode, she talked about how she went from two medications, and doctors told her she's going to be sick for the rest of her life, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to being completely healthy and on no medication. And I taught Katie, I don't know, 12, 18 months ago, I guess, I taught her how to communicate with her body. Now, that being said, think about when you're sick, whether it be the cold or a flu, or maybe even something that's a bigger challenge for people. But let's go with a cold for a second. I mean, pretty simple thing. Everybody's had a cold. What do you say to yourself when you have a cold? Many of us will say things like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I feel so bad. I'm out of energy." And the whole gamut of things that you say to yourself. And I learned many years ago that we can talk ourselves out of a cold as well, or a flu, or even more significant things in life. I remember many years ago watching, he was my boss. I waited tables, like I said, 25 years ago. And I remember for those of you that have waited tables, we generally call it lineup, where the wait staff gets together before the restaurant opens. And at lineup, the manager was saying, he was sniffling, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, here I am sniffling again." And he says, "I sure hope that I don't get sick." Those were his exact words, and I've always remembered that. "I sure hope that I don't get sick." Very next day, he was sick. I have not taken a prescription. I give you my word, I have not taken a prescription since 1992, because I learned many years ago, and I have had the flu once last year in 2019, and that's the first time in however many years I've had it. I don't even remember. And actually, when I had it, something I did say to myself is like, "Geez, I've not been sick in so long. I forgot how bad that it feels." But I learned many years ago, and I was over it pretty quickly. I learned many years ago to talk to my body. And please, I'm going to slow down here. When I say talk to my body, if you've got something going on in your body, What do you say to yourself? What are you speaking into existence and reaffirming with your words as you're talking about what's going on in your body? My knee hurts. And people say things like my arthritis is it's I can't do this anymore. I can't do that anymore. My back hurts, therefore I can't do this or I can't do that. Or this pain or that pain or shoulder, whatever. You guys get you know where I'm going here. You get the point. I'm going to share not too much here because I think I'm going to do another episode on this. But I have literally learned a method as simple as this is that when I talk to my body, I thank it for being well as if it was never like, let's say, for example, that I'm trying to think here for a second. Like I said, these aren't scripted. Let's say that my thumb hurts and I want my thumb to stop hurting and I want to heal very quickly. What I would do is I would say, thank you, thumb, for feeling well. Thank you, thumb, for feeling good. Thank you, thumb, for feeling normal or whatever word that I would choose. But what I want to share with you is what I would do is I would say that literally 10 times in repetition, like every single hour on the hour. Thumb, thank you for feeling amazing. Thumb, thank you for feeling amazing. Thumb, thank you for feeling amazing. That's 3 times, but I would do it 10, and I would imagine in my mind that it's already true. Now, this might sound a little crazy to some of you guys, but research has demonstrated, do your own research, is that we can heal, we can self-heal, but most of us, and if you notice most of the population, is they don't give any instruction to their unconscious mind, which is what I'm doing when I'm saying thumb. Thank you for feeling amazing. Now, you may want to try this yourself, but I'm going to tell you in my life, I have found amazing results with healing very, very quickly when I thank that part of my body that I want to function in a certain way, in a healthy way. I talk to it and I say, thank you for feeling great. Thank you for feeling amazing. Thank you for feeling XYZ, whatever it is that I want that part of the body to feel. And when I'm in the experience and I close my eyes and I say it 10 times and I do the repetition, I'm going to just be transparent and literally just tell you, there have been times that I have been shocked. And I'm going to just say that. I have been flabbergasted and shocked at our ability to direct our healing very, very quickly by using the power of our words. Let me go somewhere else with this. Words have vibration, and I'm not going to go too deeply here, but this is something, I've mentioned my brother-in-law, the shaman, before. He's always said to me that everything is physics. Everything we go from thought to feeling to vibration to frequency, and that's physics. And our words have vibration. I believe the science is called cymatics. I'm pretty sure it's called cymatics. I heard this years ago. But if you go to YouTube and you actually you search for like sound frequency and patterns, you will see where many experiments where people are actually they have these sound machines and they've got salt or sand or whatever on a pad, and as they change the frequency of the sound, the patterns change. Now, what I want to point out here is what's clearly demonstrated. This is science, but it's so basic, is that sound affects water. Okay, so let that soak in. The bad pun there, let it soak in. But sound affects water. And you know what? Your body is 70% water. And we have sound in our voice. And we have higher vibration sound and lower vibration sound. When you even think about it, like higher and lower vibration sound, when you say the word love, love, that's one sound. It's one frequency. When you say the word hate, that is a vibration and a frequency. So that being said, is what words are you speaking and what vibration and frequency is that creating for you that's actually manifesting and creating in your life? So what I'm asking you again is, what kind of life are you speaking into existence? I think I'm at about 25 minutes right here, and there are so many places I want to go in this particular episode. My brother-in-law, the shaman, and I've mentioned before, his name is Javier. I call him Don Javier. Don, he's from Mexico, and Don is a form of respect. And he has said for so many years to people that work with him, guard your words. Be very careful with your words because everything starts with sound. And then he goes back to, and I'm just telling you the truth, it's over my head, but he goes back and he talks about the Big Bang. And he goes, Big Bang is sound. Everything starts with sound. So be very, very careful with your words because sound creates frequency and vibration. And Nikola Tesla once said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So I think as you're listening to this episode and you look at the self-talk that you had prior to this episode, I think it's becoming apparent to you that you must guard your words and be careful with your words. Your words about health and wellness and money and all the things that you want to create. What words are you using to speak the circumstances of your life into existence? Like I said, there are so many places I really want to go with this episode. I've been looking forward to this one for a little while because it's been on my content calendar. And there are some episodes that I'm like, whoa, I would like to make that a 3-part episode because there's so many places that I can go. But when you look at, for example, I'm going to wrap up here, but when you look at, for example, like yoga, why do you think that the word Om, O-M, is so present? Why do you think it's said so often? It's a vibration is exactly what it is. The mantra Om, basically, it represents that it's a creative sound that sustains the universe. I mean, I don't think anybody just sat down one day and said, "Hey, let me just start babbling some gibberish." And if you look at, chants, whether it's shamans or healers or kahunas or babalaos or priests, it doesn't matter. But healers, they use chants and meditations and incantations and prayers. They use all of these because it all has resonance and vibration and frequency. So your transformational takeaway this week, we'll keep it really simple, and think about this through 2020. Whatever it is that you want to create in 2020, it's going to come from your identity. Go back to one of the earlier episodes. I think it's episode number 3 or 4 when I talk about subconscious identity. But you will speak 2020 into existence with your words. And whatever you want, be mindful after this episode, you must speak the words. One more thing here is when I'm talking to myself and I'm manifesting, I'm setting my intention, and I need to do an episode on that as well. But when I'm setting my intention, what I finish with, and it means something to me, but what I finish with is this phrase, I am word through my vibration. I am word through my vibration. So I speak what I want to create. I set my intention, and then I finish with I am word through my vibration because I know that my word creates. Okay, transformational takeaway this week. Pretty simple. And I think it's obvious by this point that you get it, is that you speak your life into existence. Next episode is a Q&A from Rebecca, and actually she wrote in and she said, what are the habits of wealthy people? And one of my good friends, we're like really good friends, James Wedmore, Mind Your Business Podcast. We were on vacation last week at my house in Sedona, and he asked me if I'd create a really quick 1-minute audio about habits of multimillionaires. And I said, sure. And I'm going to share with you, though, the twist that I put on it. Because James and I are both multimillionaires, and most of our friends are. We're all internet marketers and all out making a difference in the world. The reason that I tell you that is when you hear, what are the habits of wealthy people, and there's all this mumbo jumbo and the memes on Instagram and Facebook and everything else. But there's a place that you must start when it comes to habits that most people miss. And I'm going to share that with you on the next episode because that'll roll us right into 2020. Okay, one more thing here. That being said, wow, 2020 already. This podcast, as I've said before, we just started back, I think, in March or so, April, and we'll have 1 million downloads in the very first year. And I have to say, with a heartfelt, seriously, genuine, thank you so much. Thank you for allowing me to serve because, see, this is my dharma. This is what I'm on the planet for, is to serve and to help people and to assist. And if nobody's listening, then, what's the point of doing all this? But a lot of people are listening and downloading, and a lot of people are sharing the podcast. So I want to share with you again a very heartfelt thank you for all the assistance in 2019. And let's make 2020, let's speak it into existence, and let's make 2020 your best year ever. All right. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you over on another episode. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this entire podcast. If you're the kind of person who likes to help others, then share this with your friends and family. If you found value, they will too. So please share via your social media channels. Also, if you have questions, I'm here to assist. You can email me questions to support@jimfortin.com, and I may even use your question for a future podcast episode. Also, if you want transformational content like this daily, connect with me on Instagram. My Instagram name is I am Jim Fortin. Finally, I do have a personal request. I believe that we're all here to help others and to grow and evolve ourselves. Together, you and I, let's help more people. If you would please leave a review on iTunes, and a good one, by the way. I'd be grateful, and through your assistance together, we can transform more lives. Thanks for listening.